Welcome to the New You Podcast, and this podcast is here to help anybody who is struggling along your weight loss journey. Now, what I'm going to be going over today is how to lose your first 10 pounds. And I know this is going to be a game changer for many of you, because who's been in a situation where you've lost 5 pounds only to regain it and you're stuck in the cycle where you're making no progress? It can be pretty frustrating when that's happening. So I'm going to help you get past that and lose that first 10. Now, to do this, there are 3 things we need to focus on. The first is going to be with your nutrition. And what I'm not going to recommend is any kind of fad diet. You do not have to do intermittent fasting. You don't have to do keto. You don't have to cut out meat. You don't have to do those things. But there are some recommendations I'm going to make that will make this easier, especially if you're somebody who is not familiar with the concept of calories or tracking at all. What we're going to do first are adjust some of your food choices. We're going to be substituting some of the, well, for lack of a better word, some of the crap for food choices that are better. So this is how I want you to think about it. What I want you doing is substituting some of the more, and I don't want to demonize these types of food, but in the context of fat loss, I want you to substitute food choices that are more processed for choices that are more simple, whole food sources. An example could be, let's say you like to have a chicken pot pie for dinner, a little microwavable one, and that's what you're eating. I want you to swap that out for instead chicken breast, all right, some veggies, and if you want, a little bit of rice. It's basically the same meal, but the one that has more of the whole food choices in it will make it easier for you to lose body fat because it'll be more filling and the calories will be lower. And I want you to do this with all your foods, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Eat more whole foods. Now, a good way to find whole foods when you're shopping is to shop around the perimeters of your store. For the most part, if you're shopping around the perimeter, that's where you're going to find your fruits, your veggies, your lean meats, all right? That's how I want you to do that. That change by itself is going to help that body fat to start to come down because you'll be more full eating foods that have less calories in them. Now, the other thing I want you doing is going to be with your beverages. I've been on close to 1,000 consultations, over 1,000 actually, and something that I see a lot of people doing is that they're drinking juices. Even if, let's say, it's made from 100% real fruit, or let's say you bought a juicer and now you're juicing carrots, you're juicing kale. This is a mistake when it comes to losing body fat. Drinking your calories is one of the worst things you can do. Not to mention that by taking the fiber out of your veggies and fruits, you are losing something that is very important when it comes to health. Because when your body gets that juice and there's no fiber to slow it down, it sucks it up. It thinks it's regular sugar. And that's really what fruits and veggies are when you take out the fiber. So don't drink your calories. Instead, drink water. It's also good to have, if you're somebody who needs coffee to start that day off, you can have coffee, but let it be plain black coffee. Keep it simple. You can also have herbal tea, the kind that you brewed with a tea bag, not the kind that has like a different sugar and stuff. I'm sorry, you can't have your peak tea because we're trying to lose that first 10 pounds. And what you can have, believe it or not, are diet beverages like diet sodas. All right, that's fine. Now that we have that in order, you're going to see that body fat start to come down. Now, once you've gotten comfortable with that, what we're going to do next is you're going to start to make a log of your food. All right, that way you know what you're eating every day, because this is going to transition us to teaching you about calories, because you are eventually going to have to track them. So with that food log, what you're going to start doing is adding the amount of calories that's associated with every food. Let's say, for example, you had an apple for breakfast. An apple is roughly 110 calories, so you write that down. An easy way to know how many calories are in food is to use a free calorie tracker app. MyFitnessPal is a good choice, not as good as it used to be. Noom is another good choice, also Lose It. Use one of those, they'll do the math for you, and then you'll know how many calories you're eating per day. Once you have that average number, let's say it's 1,600 calories per day, and you're going to be losing body fat, but eventually, simply eating better choices is going to stop being effective for fat loss. That's when tracking those calories are going to come in handy, because you're going to know how much you've been eating. So let's say you've been eating 1,600 calories and now you cannot lose body fat on that amount of food. What you're going to do next is you're going to subtract from that number. I recommend subtracting anywhere between 150 to as high as 250 calories. Somewhere in there, you're going to subtract from that number, and then you're going to eat that amount of food daily. And then you're going to see that body fat start to trend down again, all right? Now that we have nutrition covered, there is a second part that is as important, because we want to lose body fat from our nutrition, but we also have to work our muscles, make sure we're doing our cardio. And there's two types of things I care about. So with your cardio, an easy way to get started, especially if you're somebody who has not been too active for many years, maybe you're coming off of an injury, just start walking. Most of our phones come with some kind of step tracker on them. If you have an iPhone, it'll be Apple Health. If you have a Samsung phone, I believe it's Samsung Health. Maybe you have a Fitbit or a Garmin, something. That way you know how many steps you've been walking per day. So let's say you've been walking about 3,000 steps per day because you checked that out, you know what that number is. What we're going to do once you get that number is you're going to up it. You're going to up that number by about 2,000 steps per day. So that number goes from 3,000 to 5. And then you're going to walk that every day. This is going to make your cardiovascular system stronger. This is also going to help you feel better. Walking is a great way to bring down stress, but more importantly, it's also going to help with bringing down that body fat, which we want to do. So we have our food covered. We are being active with good cardio, but now we need to work our muscles. We have to work our muscles, because if you don't do proper resistance training, as your weight comes down, you're also going to lose more muscle. And this is how you end up having people who are thin but very flabby. And this is something that we want to avoid for many reasons. For one, I'm pretty sure most people don't want to be flabby, just as far as aesthetics go, but also this will run you the risk of becoming frail, which is one of the dangers many of us face as we get up in age. We don't want to be frail. A good way to battle that is with resistance training. It'll work your muscles. It'll also make your bones denser, which is going to be important because you don't want to be a fall risk as you go throughout life. This is also going to be good for your metabolism. So how are we going to do it? How are we going to train these muscles? So there are really three movements, basic movements I want you to think about. Training your legs. You want to do muscles that push. So anything when you're pushing, that will train your chest, the back of your arms, and your shoulders. And then we have another movement, pulling. Pulling trains your back, trains your biceps, all right? It can also hit the back part of your shoulder. So legs, push, pull. That's a good way to think about it. A very simple exercise regimen you can think about would be doing, let's say, body weight squats. That's your legs. Doing push-ups, they could be off the wall, that's fine. That will be your pushing movements. And let's say if you had a little dumbbell and you're doing a dumbbell row. That is training your pulling muscles. A workout that simple can help you a lot, even if you're a beginner. Now, I do know there's many different situations where you're injured, so maybe certain exercises may not work for you, but there's many different choices out there. But I just want to give you a simple idea of what it could look like. And what I recommend most people work up to is you want to get up to working out 3 times per week. I think that's great. But if you're not strong enough for 3 times a week yet, start where you start, you know? Maybe all you can do is 1 per week. Then you work up to 2. Then you work your way up to 3. The important thing is that you are being consistent with what you've ever committed to, however many times per week that is. Now here's going to be the other important thing about the exercises to make sure they are effective, because you don't want to just do them, all right? You want to do them in a way that is going to make you stronger, maintain that muscle, help avoid becoming frail, tone you up. The way you do this is by using something called progressive overload. In simple terms, that means you want to make the exercises a little more difficult over time. Because if they don't become more difficult, your body has no reason to change. Now we've gone over that. The last piece of this is going to be around consistency. This is what holds everything together. You do not want to be somebody who only eats well 3 times a week, only 4 times a week. Maybe you only eat good during the week, and during the weekends you completely throw out your plan. If you do that, you will struggle. The way I want you to think about this is while you're trying to lose this first 10, think about your food as sacred. You're not going to steer away from it. You're going to become uncompromising in this journey because it's important to you. You don't want to be in pain anymore. You don't want to look in the mirror and hate what you see. You don't want to be somebody who takes showers in the dark because you don't want to see yourself in the mirror. You want to get to a place where you feel awesome. But to get there, you have to be uncompromising in this journey. That means if you had an exercise planned on Monday and it was some kind of event happening Monday, you still exercise on Monday. This is the mindset that it'll take to become consistent. And then once that happens, good things are going to keep on coming for you. And that is how you lose that first 10 pounds. Now, for anybody out there who has a tough time with this guide that I've given you, and you need a little more help, Coach Antoine does in fact coach. So if you need any help, you can reach out to me. If I have some spots, I'll be glad to have you and we can take it from there. All right, team, I hope y'all are having the best day. Let's lose some fat and start feeling great. And places where you can find me if you need coaching, you can find me on Facebook under Antoine D. Lindsay. That's Lindsey. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok under _Modern Sapien.